What we doing, man, what we always doing. We fighting for the people. This is your brother K Bain, CCD. I got the gang, the whole gang with me. I say that respectfully. This is the people's movement. We are in Minneapolis. We're gonna be in St. Paul today. We're gonna meet with organizations, elected officials, and we're gonna spread some of this human justice, this wealth, right? This legacy building work. But we're here essentially to listen to leadership, to hear where they see themselves as proficient and where they see the challenges. We're gonna assess. So today is about assessment. Too often people talk about doing work in the community and they have their designs and plans, but they skip this very important step. It's called need assessment. It's looking at power dynamics. It's understanding what the people are saying. So here we are to partner, support by listening to those in St. Paul and Minneapolis. We'll meet with organizations on the ground, and we'll also meet with some of the elected officials that are out here, all focused on community-led public safety, community violence intervention. Peace and blessings. CCD.
Nice to meet you. Okay, nice to meet you. Sasha. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Lisa, how are you? Sasha. Nice to meet you. We was just things coming out the wall. And we saw to get outside. And we were like, oh, yeah,
I'm Sasha Cotton, currently the director of the Minneapolis Office of Violence Prevention. I've been here just shy of 9 years. Josh beat me by 6 months. And we've been working together for a long time to build out the programmatic areas of the work, which we'll dive into a little bit later.
And again, I'm Josh Peterson. I've been here with the city doing violence prevention work for about 9 years now. And I'm currently the manager of operations and programs for the OVP, so overseeing sort of administrative stuff, all kind of our programmatic initiatives and our staff team. And shortly, we'll also be taking over as interim director because our fearless leader, Sasha, will be leaving us relatively soon.
2 weeks. Josh is the man with the magic. He's downplaying all of his qualifications.
Each office permit, go by E, work with the Office of Violence Prevention, working with our interrupters team, about the interrupters, the groups we have. We'll be meeting with on the ground.
And I'm Jennifer White, working in Office of Violence Prevention as the Interagency and Community Engagement Manager. And I'm the leadership lead for our group violence intervention strategy. And I've been with the city for 16 years and with the OVP for just under 2.
Demetrius Simillion, I'm the coordinator, and I work as a national coordinator for CCD, responsible for the technical assistance and support, helping with the civic transition. So that's
like you already, I got an uncle named Demetrius.
My name is Elijah. I'm the education and employment specialist for CCD. I work with our outreach workers, our violence interrupters, to create referral services for the clients that come into our center. I'm making sure that they can get jobs. I'm creating tracking systems for them, and just supporting them through their development, as they try to better themselves and progress. So that's my job.
I am K Bain, founder, executive director of community capacity development. One of the co-architects of the New York City Crisis Management System, which we started in 2010 with a $4.8 million investment then from Speaker Christine Quinn, and have grown to approximately $120 million of investment over the duration from the mayor's office to city council. And we are currently strategizing on a human justice network, which I'm excited to speak with you all about as we build our rapport and relationship.
And I am Dr. Devon Pryor. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for Community Capacity Development. I was taken out of retirement by K Bain and asked to hang out with him for a few months. It's now turned into a few years.
You aren't ready to go. And
I am excited to be here. I have 30 years nonprofit management experience and been a consultant for different governmental agencies for the last decade or so. So I'm really in a very unique kind of position because I can see both sides, how the wheels of bureaucracy move and grind very slow while the nonprofits are moving at 3 times the speed. So, but I'm honored to be here. This is an exciting initiative, and we just thank you for really taking the time to facilitate this for us. I think it speaks a lot. So thank you.
It sounds like an amazing lineup, so we're super excited to be working with you all. Many of us have experience working in nonprofits. I spent a good chunk of my career early on working in nonprofits and academia, and then now at the city, so at the state too. So been all over. Josh has been all over. He's been all over. Jen's our OG at the city. She's been here for a long time. The rest of us have been other places.
That's our anchor.
Yeah, policy. We need her inside track for the policy work. Inside outside game is not for everybody. And that's, definitely her skill set, but I'm really grateful for the fact that we're going to be able to work with you all. You know, obviously this project has been a little chaotic is how I would describe it, but we're excited about the recognition from the Biden administration, you know, as a standalone, but more excited about refining and improving our work. Minneapolis Office of Violence Prevention came into fruition through the 2018 budget and went into full capacity in 2019. I was named director in July of 2019, so the work in that capacity is new, but most of our project areas are not that new. So I talk about Josh and I as a tag team, but I'm not joking. We really started here in 2013, 2014 with like the two of us on $100,000 and have grown this work since that time to an $11 million budget with a portfolio of 15 or 16 programs. And so we really anchor our work in 3 key buckets. The replication of evidence-based practice. So we're standing up the group violence intervention strategy. We have a full adult implementation here, and we're working on a youth and adolescent version of that model through ARP funds. We have hospital-based work in 3 of our major hospitals in Minneapolis with bedside response as well as follow-up service. And then the interrupter work, which we've worked with Cure Violence on the development of and continue to do some training and stuff with them. Which is the project we're centering for the CVIC, strategies. That's where it's our newest model. We piloted it at the end of 2020, right after George Floyd was murdered. Our city saw insurmountable violence and was really struggling with how we could do some work to address it in the immediacy, and launching an interrupter model seemed like the right move. It has been good and rough, right? So I'll come back to that, but just anchoring that's our newest strategy, probably our biggest strategy in the area where I think we need the deepest support and refinement. The second bucket is our innovation and capacity building. So we really believe in building the brilliance of Minneapolis. Violence prevention is still new, even though we've been at it in Minneapolis through a public health lens. Our blueprint for action to prevent youth violence came out in 2008, was refined in 2013 as a part of the National Forum on Youth Violence Prevention. So we've been at the work for a while, but we still really are building partnerships and growing the capacity of people on the ground to do the work. So I think fundamentally when it started, it was much more policy and sort of programmatic alignment of existing work, and now we're seeing the development of new work, right? So we want to grow those small grassroots organizations, particularly those led by people of color, to do the work, and we know that doesn't happen by osmosis, so we've got to give them the skills. So we do that in 2 ways. One is through a capacity building institute, so we have a 9-month cohort that is taught by one of our staff and then a consultant from the nonprofit world, really building the capacity of small nonprofits some of them aren't even nonprofits, to get a 501c3 for one, to build a board, to develop some grant writing and budgeting skills, but also to network with other people who are doing the work and to bring in people who have gone through that cohort. We've been doing that since 2015. So we've got a pretty expansive network of people who have gone through it and have leveraged it to get larger grants, larger opportunities. Many of the folks doing our evidence-based replication, we met through that capacity building opportunity, and they've grown their skills to have nonprofits now that are getting $2, $3, $4, $500,000 from the city. So, and the other way that we do capacity building and sort of innovation work is through our Office of Violence Prevention Fund. So it's where we're funding ideas directly from Minneapolis residents, organizations, nonprofits, not necessarily asking them to follow an evidence-based model, but to really give them resources to do something that they feel like it's going to have an impact on the ground in their communities.
What do those grants generally look like?
They max out at $85,000. So they're they're as small as 10.
Yep.
So we have some that are like 10,000 for people who are like, I want to do a series of, listening circles and buy, popcorn or whatever, all the way up to 85,000 for programs that are doing more like direct service and wanting to do larger scale programs.
Right.
And we usually do that as one round a year in the spring. This year and for the foreseeable couple next year with ARP money, we're able to do two rounds of that funding. So one in the spring and then another one in the fall. And usually the funding can last up to a year depending on how they decide to do their budget. So it gives them some time to plan, implement, and then we do a little evaluation with them on the back end.
What's the city budget? What is your, what's the number?
Do you know what the overall budget is?
I can tell you in a moment.
Josh will tell you.
Take a second.
So that's our second bucket, is that capacity building and innovation. And then our last bucket is really our origin story, and that's youth violence. So we've always, we started as a division of youth violence prevention. That's the work that Josh and I were charged with when we first started. So we continue to do that work with a couple of different initiatives, the newest of them being this adolescent GVI. We also, downstairs, you gotta tell me what it's called now, Josh. It used to be called the
Youth Connection Center.
It used to be called the Juvenile Supervision Center. It's a joint powers agreement between our city, our county, and our school district to provide non-secure placement for young people coming in with a law enforcement hold, but not needing to be detained, right? So it's a safe place for them to wait while parents come to pick them up for curfew, truancy, other low-level offenses. We help to operationalize that and manage the relationship with a nonprofit that does the day-to-day. It's 365 days a year, 24/7. So really trying to move away from an incarceration platform for those young people who don't need that kind of supervision. We also have our Inspiring Youth program, which is one of the models that Josh built out, which is really focused on helping young people before they get to the point of needing to be adjudicated delinquent. Josh and I both have spent some time working in juvenile delinquency and saw like just numerous resources become available to kids once they're go through the criminal justice system, right? So all of a sudden now mental health services are available and family resources and all this stuff, but they got to get a felony before they get to that. So we really wanted to anchor some services with young people before that, because we know that schools and family members and folks are seeing those red flags that it's coming, and if we can get out in front of it, even if it's not formal diversion, we want to do that. So there's some youth programming like that. We're also just working on a number of programs within our schools. Josh can speak to a CDC project that we just got grant funded to do, focused on improving school conditions and community championship work around violence prevention. So hands on a lot of different buckets on youth violence prevention, but that's kind of the layout of our portfolio. Now we have, and our navigators, I forget about them. Our city is going through a reorg, so things are moving around, and sort of a precursor to that reorg was taking some of the civilian positions out of the police department and moving them to other public safety facets. So there were 2 units specifically moved, one being the navigator unit, which is really culturally and topically specific experts who can do, they were really designed to do casework and scene response work with PD. But they've been moved to our office, and we've been sort of navigating the navigators. So trying to figure out what does that look like from a non-enforcement standpoint. So they're still really working as a bridge. They still continue to do a lot of work with MPD and trying to help mitigate some of the challenges they have with working in community. We have a specialist focused on domestic and sexual violence, a specialist in the GLBTQ community, East African community, which we have a huge East African community, if you haven't seen that yet, the American Indian community. Those are the filled positions, and we have 3 vacancies. Well, there's a supervisor over the unit that I didn't mention. There's a Southeast Asian vacancy, a Black vacancy, and a Latinx vacancy. And those are vacant because there was some people departed from those positions before they were moved over. And until we were confident that those positions were going to stay here, we felt like it was unethical to hire. We did not want to hire people to work in a non-enforcement capacity and then they get transferred back to the police department. And that's not what they signed up for. And I think it could have been a moral conviction issue. So we held off, but we feel like we're moving in the right direction, and so we're going to start thinking about hiring. So I'll pause there a little bit and let staff chime in and see if you guys have any questions. But that's kind of the lay of the land.
Appreciate it. Definitely gave us a panoramic view.
That's a nice way to say it. And I talk fast. So.
No. We like it. That's our speed. That's our speed. It came to mind in terms of your contracts and as you award them, are they reimbursement-based contracts?
It's a mix.
Large, and so they are largely reimbursement, but we have recognized that a lot of the organizations we work with are not equipped to do that, and from an equity perspective, it's not fair of us to say, you gotta do all the financial outlay and we'll pay you back later. So we've fought with, I wouldn't say fought, we have
pushed back against program policy.
Okay, that's right. We have offered some constructive pushback. And as a result, they have been okay with the idea of us advancing some funds on the front end of contracts. So we're able to do that. We typically won't advance the full amount, but we are able to advance some on the front
What
end.
percentage is standard before the pushback? What was it?
It was zero before the pushback.
Zero advance.
It was full. It was full.
Yeah, now, say for example, we have a $275,000 contract. We will often advance $100,000 of that.
And we created a baseline some years ago that was 25% advance. And even that came with complications, the 25. And then in terms of the crisis management system, which is a very unique approach to violence reduction, we negotiated 50%. That still has to be codified into law, because that was really an internal policy decision that we were grateful to get, but we, you know, in our bliss, overlooked the fact it's not codified.
Got rid of that.
So now we gotta go back, you know, because, you know, folks got short memories, you know.
Yes, especially when it's in their interest.
We just went through a whole shift in our council, so trust me. We've been down that road just recently where it's like, no, you told us we didn't have to come back. And they're like, oh, you didn't say that. The last people said that.
No administration, no rules. But to your point, I think one of the strengths of our team is having that experience of working inside of the council, for example, or in some of those spaces, learning how things work and don't work, honestly speaking, and then jumping into the nonprofit field and leading the charge from this. It's that dichotomy, the ability to really put your, and even a level of understanding, right? Because a lot of what we see is just bureaucratic nonsense. It's protection, controls. So there is a logic at play. It just doesn't serve the people, right? And procurement, we constantly shouldn't be punishment. In contract, you know.
And that's what it feels like. It feels very punitive.
Very much so.
Now, I think especially after George Floyd was killed, and we're seeing this kind of transformation, right, and this opportunity to change and shift how we're thinking about safety and pulling community in, you know, much more intentionally. We can say that, but then what does that mean, you know, through all of the bureaucracy and all of that, and how are we able to be a bridge then between, you know, City Hall, the community, our partners, and make sure that we're serving all of our people.
You know, government is a big ship, you know, and so it takes time to turn, you know, even when you're aware that you're in danger. What we're attempting to do is try to understand now how to help that shift happen, because a lot of the policies are driven by legislation that's coming from different parts, not only one central location. If it was neatly packaged, it would be one
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be wonderful. So we have to have an understanding of now all the laws, and some of the laws are kind of antiquated. You know, they probably were
And
right.
they're behind the curve of community and culture, right? So they follow behind, they don't lead.
Exactly.
And a lot of people just don't know that. So then they're like, why is that up? And it's like, man, they come after. Like, you're gonna have to do it first, and then they'll follow it.
Yeah, so, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be interesting and fun.
Yeah.